this meeting of City Commission to order and ask you all to join us, as is our habit, with a moment of silence. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Kilgore?
Present.
Commissioner Knight?
Present.
Commissioner Belcheck?
Here.
Commissioner Perdue?
Good evening.
Commissioner Sassi?
Present.
Mayor LeGrand?
Present. And if our interpreter could come up and introduce himself and explain his role in Spanish. He's here to interpret from Spanish to English and English to Spanish as needed.
Good afternoon. I'm Frank, and I'm here to assist people to give public comment in Spanish. Buenas tardes. Yo me llamo Frank. Estoy aquí disponible atrás en la sala para ayudarles a dar su comentario público en español.
Thank you. And that brings us to our first opportunity for public comment. This is for public comment on items that are on the agenda. So if you could reference the item you're addressing and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. And Mr. Jones.
Can I add one thing just so we're clear on what's happening tonight? We do have a public hearing later on the budget and on a budget and fees hearing. So just to let you know that there's a different time for a public hearing because that wasn't voted on today, but we have a public hearing for the budget later on in the meeting.
All right, just for clarification, can I speak on Committee of the Whole item number 4, which is approving the neighborhood investment plan? Is that something that I can speak on? All right, cool. How y'all doing? I'm D. Jones, and I am a passionate entrepreneur and visionary. And I like for the city government, as they have adopted 3D printed construction or 3D printed houses, I like for them to continuously and annually make funding available to 3D print houses. The reason I say this is because I had a conversation with a 3D printed construction company that is in Ohio. This company actually helps high schools get high school graduation credit for learning 3D printed construction. I'm going to read some of the benefits so you understand the benefits and how this plays into the community, because we can actually build a workforce. You can continuously have funding available for our local community to actually 3D print houses, and the students can actually earn graduation credit that actually can go to their high school graduation. And so who do they serve? They serve K through 12, seeking early career paths, incumbent workers seeking skill upgrades, justice-involved individuals re-entering the workforce, recovery for community members, and displaced workers from declining industry. What participants earn: industry-recognized credentials, IRCs, apprenticeship certifications, high school graduation credits, and direct employment pipeline access. The revenue sources: school districts and workforce contracts, state and federal workforce funding, and tuition and employer training agreements. So I'm going to ask my state government and my federal government and my city government and my county government to continuously invest into the community and make 3D printed construction on the plan continuously after 2031, because I've already connected Jennifer Brock, who's the director of curricula, and Eric, who's the supervisor of curricula, to this 3D printed construction company that's in Ohio. And they're already having conversations about how they can actually add this into the school district's curricula, so we can actually have a good infrastructure that actually starts from our local community, because education is so vital and our education system is broken. And people don't believe in GRPS how they should, but I believe in the things that I've been doing and the continuous passion and energy that I've been putting into this community. Also, just to say, I'd like to thank JLL, because they did recommend the West Grand Neighborhood Organization to purchase the school, the Stockton School. So we did get recognized as the neighborhood organization to purchase the Stockton School, where we can actually utilize the school to educate students on 3D printed construction, streaming digital assets, decentralized finance. So as you guys are going to be having fiscal plans in the future fiscal budgets, I ask that you also consider investing into the Stockton Hub once we actually get to close down on the school, and actually be able to truly show the community, the globe, the United Nations, the United States, what the community can be, and what true grassroots efforts and what true stand true to yourself actually brings to the community. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, I will ask for approval of our last meeting's minutes. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. That brings us to petitions and communications. Mr. Clerk.
96 communications received urging the City Commission to support funding in the city budget for installations on Kalamazoo Avenue to improve safety.
Received and filed.
Communication received from Katie Hoffman, Garfield Park Neighborhoods Association Executive Director, including 166 signatures on petition to resume the First Ward Commissioner appointment process and reach a consensus.
Received and filed.
Communication received from Scott Atchison regarding the proposed property taxes in fiscal year 2027 city budget.
Received and filed.
Communication received from Jolanda Howe expressing support for Kurt Repart for the position of First Ward Commissioner.
Received and filed.
And communication received from Lucas Lever expressing support to fully fund DASH in fiscal year 2027.
Received and filed, which brings us to reports of city officers. Mr. Clerk.
Yeah, the Comptroller's warrant report for the period of April 14, 2026 through April 27, 2026 in the amount of $31,012,771.96 and the monthly travel report.
Received and filed.
And finally, the Treasurer's report for the period of April 15, 2026 through April 28, 2026.
Received and filed. Brings us to our next item, which is our consent agenda. And for those of you in the audience who aren't familiar with this mechanism, these are items which have passed unanimously out of committee earlier and have not been removed for further discussion for any reason by any member of the commission. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. There being no items removed from our consent agenda, this brings us to ordinances to be adopted. The first is consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 68 of the Historic Preservation Commission. Can I have a motion?
Support.
Commissioner Perdue.
Okay, here we go. On April 28, 2026, the City Commission established today as a date to consider an ordinance that would amend Chapter 68, Section 5.4041, to allow the city to issue a municipal civil infraction for violations of the Historic Preservation Ordinance. Currently, violations proceed from a notice directly to a misdemeanor. This amendment will bring enforcement of Chapter 68 into alignment with other city ordinances and enforcement practices.
Thank you. Colleagues? Well, I will say that although I support the movement that's happening in this ordinance, I do have significant reservations, and that's because as it sits, I'm deeply unhappy with or dissatisfied with the immediate movement for infraction for violations of the Historic Preservation Commission orders to become an incarcerable event. But as drafted, this still allows that to be true for a fourth offense. And I think we have to have a broad conversation in our community, frankly, about what events we think warrant potential incarceration. And I don't think that violation of historic preservation orders should be something that we incarcerate for. I've done a little research on this, and apparently we've only enforced this with a misdemeanor once in recent history. So this is not exactly a burning public policy problem from an enforcement standpoint. But on principle, I think that we should reserve the power of incarceration, which is frankly a very weighty thing for any government to do, but I think we should reserve the power of incarceration for things we deem to be serious harms and acts. And so I tend to think that things that you can solve with money or with compliance shouldn't generally fall into that category. So if things can be fixed with something other than there are things which we call crimes which can't be undone. You can't undo an assault. You can undo compliance or lack of compliance with a city order, and so I'm I'm not happy to have the possibility of incarceration at any level for compliance or lack of compliance. But this is substantial progress, and so I will be voting yes on it because I guess it'd be your fourth offense at this point, which would be a misdemeanor. I'm still not completely satisfied with that, but I would much rather have people have 3 civil infractions before they get to incarceration or an incarcerable conviction. So it's a great improvement over the status quo. I just don't think it goes far enough. Colleagues, anyone want to have any further discussion? Commissioner Belcheck.
I'll just say that I think that this is a step in the right direction, and I appreciate the work that the staff has done, and I am fully in favor of approving this tonight.
Okay, great. Okay, seeing no further discussion then, all in favor of the,
Roll
I'm
call.
sorry, roll call vote.
Commissioner Asasi?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Belcheck?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgore?
Yes.
Mayor LaGrand?
Yes. And that brings us to our second vote, and this is essentially a companion piece to the item we just considered, and that's consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 170 of the municipal civil infractions. Can I have a motion?
So support.
And Commissioner Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a companion item again to the former. On April 28th, the City Commission set May 12th as the date to consider the ordinance amending Chapter 170 municipal civil infractions. The municipal civil infractions section of the city code, which provides for the ability to issue civil infractions. This ordinance would amend Chapter 170 by adding Chapter 68 as a listed ordinance with authority to issue civil infractions, and what those infractions look like. For the initial offense is $100. First repeat offense, $200, second repeat, $400, and then a period of repeat offenses, misdemeanor.
Thank you. Any discussion, colleagues? Otherwise, another roll call vote.
Commissioner Purdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Belcheck?
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgore?
Yes.
Commissioner Asasi?
Yes.
Mayor LaGrand?
Yes. Which brings us to City Commission resolutions, and I would ask for a motion to suspend the rules to consider the next 2 items.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Brings us to our first resolution. Commissioner Belcheck.
You read the resolution.
I'm sorry, this is a resolution authorizing certain special events subject to Chapter 53 of the City Code. Commissioner Belcheck.
No motion.
Yeah, and I need a motion.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, colleagues. This is a resolution authorizing certain special events subject to Chapter 53 of the City Code, which, since its founding in 2014, the Armed Forces Thanksgiving event has become a meaningful Grand Rapids tradition that honors the service and sacrifice of military members while providing educational opportunities for students across West Michigan. Now in its 11th year, the event brings together veterans, active duty and military personnel, community leaders, hundreds of local students to foster appreciation, leadership, and civic engagement. This resolution authorizes the associated special event activities, including the planned CH-47 Chinook flyover, great if you want to see some planes, as part of the ceremonial program. And that's subject to all required federal approvals, insurance requirements, and public safety measures.
Thank you. Any discussion, colleagues? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that brings us to our next resolution. This is City Commission resolution authorizing proof of settlement of the matter of Rebecca Lewis as personal representative for the estate of Janice Wilson. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Commissioner Sassi.
Thank you, Mayor. On April 28th of this year, the matter that you just previously mentioned was presented to all of us in a closed session. Settlement of the pre-suit claims of Rebecca Lewis as the personal representative for the estate of Janice Wilson was recommended in the total amount of $90,000 and payable to the claimant's counsel and the estate. The amount includes any and all claims by the claimant arising from the November 1st, 2023 incident described in the claimant's pre-suit correspondence and supporting documentation.
Thank you. Any discussion, colleagues? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to our series of public hearings, and although they are listed as 5 items on the agenda, I want to point out for the public that we're going to essentially consolidate the hearing mechanism, so because there are companion pieces. So item 1 will stand alone, 2 and 3 are be consolidated for purposes of discussion, and also 4 and 5. So our first public hearing is a public hearing to hear appeals on the Uptown Business Improvement Special Assessment Roll 8804. And do I, pardon?
Ms. Lindsay Post.
Right. Ms. Post is coming up to introduce the topic, and then there will be an opportunity for the public to speak if they wish.
Okay, this is for the Uptown Business Improvement District Special Assessment Role. At the request of the City Commission, the Uptown Business Improvement District Board and the Assessor's Office has prepared a Special Assessment Role number 8804 in accordance with the Business Improvement District's plan adopted by the City Commission on March 25 of 2025. This is the second year of the plan. Property owners were sent notices on April 14th, 2026, and notified of the charge and the appeal process. The special assessment roll has been open for public inspection for at least 2 weeks, starting on April 20th through today. To date, the office has received 1 appeal. Today, the City Commission convenes as the Board of Review to hear the appeals on the assessments, and it's the final opportunity for those notified to file an appeal of this assessment. I'll be available for the next 15 minutes if anybody wants to file appeal. And the assessor and the city attorney will then review all the appeals and report to the commission on June 2nd, requesting confirmation of the special assessment roll. If confirmed, the special assessment will be invoiced on the July 1st with the summer property tax statement.
Thank you. Seeing no one to speak on this, this hearing is now closed. Brings us to our second and third items on the agenda, which we're going to consolidate. The first is a public hearing to consider an amendment to the City of Grand Rapids Brownfield Plan for the Indiana Avenue Northwest redevelopment project located at 335 and 343 Indiana. And the second is a public hearing to consider the establishment of a neighborhood enterprise zone for the Indiana project located at 335 and 343 Indiana. So, Ms. Renero, if you want to introduce this.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for your time. This is a new construction project at Indiana and Bridge on the west side of the city. This will be 29 residential units, including a small commercial space. And you can see the breakdown of units there. We've got studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. Total project cost $6 million with about $5 million in construction costs. And about 5% of those construction costs dedicated to our micro, local, our minority-owned, and our women business enterprises. We've got $1.3 million in eligible activity costs related to housing tax increment financing. So this includes demolition, housing activities, including infrastructure and site prep, as well as the potential rent loss for those income-qualified housing units. For 18 years, the life of the Brownfield Plan, there will be 6 residential units, or 20% of the total 29 residential units, dedicated to households earning 80% area median income or less. That financing gap is valued at $739,152 over the 18-year period. And just to add a little bit more specificity to what that rent equates to, so when we're talking about area median income for a family at 80%, we're talking about $50,480. And so for a studio, that equates to $1,321. And for a 1-bedroom, that accounts for a $1,411. And so again, 6 of the units will be maintained affordable for that 18-year period. And then this is also a public hearing related to the neighborhood enterprise zone. This is a 15-year request because of the housing component. So the base year is 9 years we consider neighborhood enterprise zones, and we're considering an extra 6 because of their housing affordability investment. Anticipated to start in the summer of this summer, and I'd like to invite Ross Bacon, the developer, and Jared Lutz with Michigan Growth Advisors to come up and talk a little bit about why the project's important.
Hello, my name's Ross Bacon. I am half owner in this project over on Indiana Ave. Just wanted to introduce myself. Really excited about this project to get a shovel in the ground. This will be our first one that my business partner and I have done. I have an office right around the corner from the northwest sides where I lived right when I first moved to Grand Rapids in 2012 with my wife. I've always had a big interest in the northwest side, and when this site popped up right around the corner, we had to jump on it. So putting about a year and a half of work into getting to this point, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good to see you all again. Jared Lutz with Michigan Growth Advisors. Just wanted to chime in on the Brownfield Plan again, as I drafted that alongside review and assistance from your city's economic development team. Just to orient, this is on the northwest corner of the intersection of Douglas Street and Indiana Ave. There's some, buildings, dilapidated buildings that have been around for about 100 years that'll be demolished as a part of this project to make way for the new 4-story building with that covered parking, ground floor, commercial retail space, and as Sarah mentioned, those 29 residential units. So Ross and team, they're emerging developers. This is his first real estate development project. I know they've been quite excited to get this project rolling and really appreciate your consideration on this one. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very exciting to see this kind of project going in the sort of the core of the city. Colleagues, any comments or questions? Commissioner Belcheck, it's your ward.
It is my ward, and it is my neighborhood. This is only a few blocks away from where I live. I drive by here every day, going to and fro, getting kids to school. There used to be a laundromat there. I hope that someday we have another one back in the neighborhood. But this is, Bridge Street is growing. We've got a lot going on. And to be honest, these are dangerous buildings. They're an eyesore. It's a huge investment that you're willing to tackle this because this will not only improve our neighborhood for aesthetics and housing, but it's going to actually make our neighborhood safer. And I hope that you find some great tenants for the retail front. Be interested in seeing how that goes. I think it would be fun to have some more. I mean, we have a lot of coffee shops, but we could have something there. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wishing to come forward and speak on this?
Buenas tardes, quiero traducción, por favor. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Gemma.
Good afternoon, my name is Hema.
Y yo soy una residente que fue expulsada del lugar de donde están hablando de este desarrollo.
And I was one of the people who got displaced from that area.
Yo vivía en la calle 3 y empezó a ser muy difícil para mí seguir viviendo ahí.
I was living on 3rd Street and it was very difficult for me to keep living there.
Porque estos desarrollos levantan mucho el dinero que hay que pagar.
Because these developments raise the rent substantially.
Entonces, como persona afectada, no estoy en contra de estos desarrollos.
And as an affected person, I'm against these kinds of projects.
Familias se van a otros lugares y vienen personas con dinero y con otro tipo de color de piel para que puedan pagar este dinero.
Families move out of there and then people of another color move in with lots of money and live there.
Y las familias de mediano o bajo clase quedan expulsadas de estos lugares y me parece injusto.
And the middle class and lower gets displaced because of that, and I don't think that's fair.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sharon Smith. I live in the 1st Ward off of Cesar Chavez. While these apartment complexes look promising and may beautify the neighborhoods, I'm concerned about the area median income that is used. If it is used for all of Grand Rapids or Kent County, that is disproportionate to this community. And I would like to see something where the area median or the median income for that neighborhood, because our kids are not finding jobs and they're going to be looking for one-bedroom and studio apartments. They cannot afford these. So I would like to see that, or maybe at 40 or 60% of area median income. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, I will close that first hearing. Our next hearing is, again, consolidated public hearing for establishing property taxes and proposed fiscal year 2027 budget, and a public hearing considering fiscal year 2027 service provision fees to be effective July 1, 2026. And our city manager is going to lead this discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Joel. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and members of the public. I want to provide a brief overview. There have been a lot of detailed discussions. Those discussions are available online as we introduced the budget and had discussed it in subsequent workshops. The budget was introduced on April 28th. We had a work session May 5th and additional one this morning. Again, those are found online, as well as a copy of the actual budget itself and all the briefing documents for the public. So tonight, we want to hear feedback from the public, the things that's in the proposed fiscal 27 plan. The plan collectively is $785 million. $206 million of that is from the general fund. It is a continuation budget of all the basic services, continuing to follow our strategic plan. Our tax, the millage rate has been decreased 0.1076 mills from last year. And as you'll see in this chart, these tables, the various components of the property tax millage rate from city operations, library, refuse and parks. The current rate for the current rate is at 8.85 mills, and it is decreased, as I said earlier, to 8.75. And you see the difference. However, because of the bottom table, we see that the property values have increased across the county and city, which is good. Since property values are up, the net impact on the millage rate is on average about a $37 increase for homeowners. You'll see the various components of the city's budget in terms of the revenue. Our city income tax is a pretty significant share of the budget, so we certainly welcome investment in jobs, both for increasing the quality of life for those that are working, but also it is a significant portion of our income tax for the general fund, $154 million. You see the proportionate property tax around $63 million, and the rest of the funding to include charges for services and grants, as well as other revenue services. Also in the packet, there is a more detailed breakdown of all the fees. There are 1,272 fees. The majority of our fees are recommended to be continued as is, about 63%. About 25% of our fees have a slight cost of living adjustment, and there are about 12% or more of the fees that are not at recovery that was adjusted higher than the cost of living rate. You'll see the distribution of property tax illustrated in the breakdown of the dollar, what percentage of every dollar goes towards the general fund, library, refuse, capital improvement, and parks fund. I think I saw our CFO earlier. This is one of her favorite illustrations. I'll go through a couple of highlights that are in the budget. Again, time will not permit an exhaustive deep dive, but all of these discussions were had with this body in detail, briefings by staff. The largest investment in our city budget is for our water system, water and wastewater, $201 million. And that is with keeping sewer rates moderately a moderate increase for water and wastewater rates on average 2.5%. And we continue to include a significant amount of funding for our lead service line replacement. We talked about that earlier today. You'll see the next investment, highest level investment for public safety, both police and fire collectively, almost $125 million in the police department's budget. 1.3 million allocated for 10 police officers that were amended in the middle of fiscal year 26. This is anticipated with revenue that we're able to recover from the state that we have not yet received. Hopefully that will we will be able to receive that in the fall. That will also allow some additional revenue for crime prevention from non-sworn personnel, about another $400,000. You'll see the budget for the fire department. We continue to, this is the operational budget, does not include the capital budget for the new fire stations and the training center that we're bringing online. And again, we continue to fund the oversight office at about $2.9 million. 1.7 of that is for technology for the Axon contract for body cameras and other surveillance equipment that the department utilizes. And again, the $400,000 I mentioned that will program for crime prevention once state revenue is realized. We talked earlier today about economic prosperity and about $19.8 million in the city's base budget, plus an additional $49 million, I think, across the different 12 authorities and improvement districts that allow investment in neighborhood corridors around the city. A significant amount of investment in our streets and infrastructure, $48 million for vital streets, another $40 million for parks and community service, and $21 million for refuse. Pretty significant investment for our district court. We've talked about that several times. $13.5 million of that, the general fund subsidizes about $10 million of that, but overall the court's budget is decreased from last year, about $17.8 million for the library. We're really pleased not only with the opening of the amphitheater that will occur this week, but when we approved to dispose of the property from 201 Market, part of our strategy was to have additional affordable housing throughout the city. So in addition to the affordable housing that will occur through the transformation of brownfield, that will occur, the transformation of brownfield on the F&M project. We'll also transfer almost $10 million to the Affordable Housing Fund. That action should take place next week at your next meeting. There's also an additional $8.2 million. You heard from Mr. Tucker. That was the base amount of federal funding, but it's also supplemented with opioid funding and another source. I think we're around a little over $9 million. But of that, about $7 million or so specifically to address programs for the unhoused and housing stability. We also talked today about the millage and the zoo museum, the zoo millage and the public museum millage that the county overseas, and hopefully we'll know more of the outcome of that. Right now it's 50-50 renewal, but we continue to have capital investment and sustained capital investment in this budget to support the public museum with some of their infrastructure projects. I think there's about $4 million for the elevator that they're building in their expansion. Lots of discussion around mobility and the DASH services. We've talked about the sustainability of the DASH to Rapid, which the mayor is both a member of the Rapid Board and Mobile GR, and both of those bodies talked about the sustainability of offering a free DASH service, which we collect no revenues for. And in order to pay for that, other rates would have to increase. So to take the pressure off the parking fund and increase for other rates, the routes were changed. That helps to avoid approximately $1.6 million in annual cost and another $7 million in capital over the next 5 years. This also allows us to keep the on-street meter rates, parking rates, the same, no cost increase. You'll see the additional positions that have been added across non-general fund departments. As said earlier today, there are no recommended additions to the general fund. We're also continuing the storage program in partnership with Mel Trotter, $100,000 to help those who are unhoused store their belongings. And we're able to continue that with the expiration of ARPA funding through the Refuse Fund. And you'll see the last investment with $60,000 for the Retail Retention Traction Program. I will say before we go, these are very uncertain times economically, internationally, as well as nationally, and so this budget provides continuity of services in the midst of a lot of the uncertainty. We're also recommending a transfer of about $7 million to the Budget Stabilization Fund, our, in essence, rainy day fund, to prepare for what economic certainty may lie ahead. That's the end of my briefing.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Colleagues, comments or questions? We've been over this for hours and hours now. And anyone wishing to see our discussion earlier in the day, that was a matter of public record, and so folks can go back and look at that. But certainly want to thank, this is something that you're very aware of when you sit in our seats, but staff spends a lot of time sharpening their pencils, looking at the information, soliciting input from us. And so this is, I think, for a lot of our staff, maybe the central moment of their calendar year, getting this work ready for the public and for discussion and ultimately for adoption. So if anyone wants to come up and discuss the budget, they are free to do so.
How y'all doing? I'm D. Jones, passionate entrepreneur and visionary. And I gotta ask y'all, first I gotta ask the federal government, can y'all send funding to our community because we don't have enough funding for our community? Also our state government, our state house, can y'all send some funding to our community because we need funding for our community? I see that we have $19 million for economic prosperity, $49 million for corridor improvements, and then $8.2 million in federal funding for community development, and $10 million going to affordable housing. I like for our federal government and our state government to increase the giving to our community in our budget, because we have unhoused people, we have people that's starving, we have people that have IDs that's registered to shelters, and I don't think that's cool. I don't think that anybody should live in poverty. I don't think that anybody should go without health care. I don't think anybody should be starving and thinking where their next thing that they gonna eat at, whether it's from the trash, whether it's from some food that somebody threw on the ground. I really see people picking food up and going through the trash, and I don't think that's cool. I also believe that our billionaires, our local billionaires, should donate and give funding with these huge projects. I think the funding for the amphitheater and the soccer stadium, I think we should increase the affordable housing funding, because I remember that I believe they given $8.2 million for the affordable housing. I believe they should increase that. I believe we should have like $50 million from that project, or $100 million. I think they can do better. I think our local billionaires can give back and help us increase our city budget, because they have projects that are built from our city's taxes, from constituents that work hard, for constituents that get up every day, for constituents that take risks to be able to feed their family and their loved ones, for our constituents that are, immigrants, for people that are undocumented. I don't believe anybody is illegal on stolen land, but that's a different conversation for another time. But I believe that we should be serving our community as best as we can with these funds. I believe that we should have a higher budget for affordable housing. I believe that our local billionaires, I believe our state government, I believe our federal government should not be taking our voting rights too. But I also believe that our federal government, our state government, especially the state house that's ran by Republicans, should not be withholding funding and should be giving funding to the cities across our state. I believe y'all should be speaking to them, and I'm pretty sure you do, but we have a Republican state house that are holding up some funds that we can actually utilize to increase our budgets for affordable housing, to be sure that we can develop our community and infrastructure better. And I hope that y'all continuously invest in the 3D printed construction. Thank you.
Good evening, City Commission. I'm Colette Crowley, and I am 15 years old. I have a couple of questions for you and the audience. How many of you have ever felt unsafe in Grand Rapids? I know, it's a bit of a broad question. Well, raise your hand if you've ever felt unsafe when law enforcement is around. How many of us feel unsafe around the people meant to protect us because we know they aren't there to protect us? This constant fear is a reality for many of our city's residents, for the students you see in front of you today. The truth is, this constant fear is a reality for me. That is why I am here today, why we are here today, to share with you our experiences, our hopes for a better future, and our demands for change from you, our city leaders. We're taking time away from studying and preparing for our futures because we know that one small encounter with law enforcement may eliminate that future. This is about public safety policies in our city. Families in Grand Rapids continue to feel unsafe as violence from the institutions you protect persists. Today, we as students are demanding city budget changes that reflect our desire, our need for public safety accountability in Grand Rapids. We stand in solidarity with Movimiento Cosecha. We demand that you adopt their sanctuary policies, building a city that truly values immigrants. As city officials, you can commit to withholding city budget resources from ICE officials, ensuring that our taxpayer dollars aren't led astray. We stand in solidarity with Daquan Johnson and his family, fighting for police accountability. We demand transparency and an independent investigation into his murder. We demand full accountability for officers who use deadly or lethal force. We demand that the transition of city budget resources is shifted from traditional policing towards community-based safety models. The truth is, we all deserve to feel safe in our city. So prove to us that you are committed to our well-being. You can stand in solidarity with us. By adopting these policies, you will show us that our communities matter, that our families matter, and that we as young people, we matter. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karina Rodriguez, and I'll be a graduate from the GRPS district this upcoming week. I want to start this by saying that I'm fortunate to have the ability to graduate with my parents present around me. To have such a privilege, or to have this to be a privilege at all, truly brought me to a state of shock. Throughout the last couple of months, in the havoc of dehumanizing detainings of my community, I finally understood what it meant to be privileged. A feeling I've never felt. To have a piece of paper, the look of citizenship, and to have my parents at graduation is an unreasonable privilege. Through my awareness of my privilege, I still live through fear and through my identity. I'd like to share an experience that I had the day of February 23rd. February 23rd felt no different from any other day. I have my daily route to school as anybody else has their daily right to work, to school, to anything like that. As I drove down the MLK Street, I thought about, did I study enough for my test today? What's gonna be my score that I get on my test today? Mid-thought and mid-turn onto Division Street, all of those thoughts froze. I saw an unmarked vehicle with lights flashing brighter than ever. I couldn't think anymore. All I could think was, don't look suspicious, as if my identity wasn't enough. As I arrived to school, I no longer cared for the results of my test. I worried for the safety of my community, my family, and for all the children that also live in this fear. I arrived home, and all I could think was, I can't do anything about this. And I cried for that whole afternoon. I'm here today to honor the advice of my mother and my father, which was to not live in fear, but to use my privilege to speak for others who can't talk or who live in fear. No one should live in fear from any governmental authorities, whether it's ICE, police, or anyone else. And that's not just immigrants, but also people who have been in these police brutality situations, such as Daquan Johnson. Please adopt COSECHA's sanctuary policies that protect communities, children, and families. And lastly, hold accountability for GRPD in the killing of Daquan Johnson. If you have the power, then use it for real change. And trust me, you have it. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Lisette Gallardo Nunez, and I'm about to graduate from Grand Rapids Public Schools as well. I'm on the way to college, and I'm here today to speak on the importance of investing city resources into the people and communities that make Grand Rapids strong. As conversations around budgeting continue, I urge this commission to prioritize community-based investments that create long-term stability and public safety for everyone. That includes expanding access to affordable housing, strengthening mental health services, supporting youth programs, and increasing funding for local community organizations that are already doing the work. Too many families in Grand Rapids are struggling to raise rent, house insecurity, untreated mental health needs, and limited access to basic support systems. True public safety is not only about enforcement. It's about prevention, stability, and opportunity, but most importantly, trust. This past year, my best friend and I constructed a CAST project standing for Creativity, Activity, and Service, where we came together with family, friends, and community to cook warm and nutritious meals for people in need around our community, living in deep poverty. I also asked this commission to consider how budget decisions affect vulnerable communities, including immigrants, working families, young people, and residents experiencing poverty. Grand Rapids should be a city where people feel supported, welcomed, and able to build a future. I hope this commission continues moving forward a budget that reflects these values, not only for me, but for people all around this community, for students, for parents, for low-income working families. Thank you.
Good evening, and my name is Abby, and I am a student. I am here today because I believe that public safety is critical to ensure trust within the community. When people are afraid that a traffic stop, a call for help, or even reporting a crime could put their family at risk, trust between communities and local institutions begin to disappear. When trust disappears, communities become less safe for everyone. I am asking this commission to seriously consider policies that keep local law enforcement focused on local public safety priorities instead of federal civil immigration enforcement. Our police officers should be spending their time preventing violence, responding to emergencies, and building relationships with residents, not families having to fear if their life could change within a second. I also believe we need a stronger transparency and accountability in the way surveillance tools and policing systems are used. Many people in my generation are concerned about how technology and law enforcement practices can impact entire communities, especially communities that already feel vulnerable or unheard. As students, we are paying attention to the kind of the city and state we are inheriting. We want communities where people feel protected enough to participate in public life, speak up when something is wrong, and trust the institutions around them. It's about safety, dignity, and making sure Grand Rapids is a place where trust between residents and local government can come together in solidarity. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lisa. I'm a freshman in the GRPS district, and I would like to dedicate my time to the students who have lost their parents to deportations. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi, my name is Nkechinere Okawasi. I am a senior at City High Middle, and before I start, I just want to talk about what's been going on in my life lately. So today I had a 2.5-hour exam, and tomorrow I have another 2-hour exam that I could be studying for, but I have to be here talking about issues that unfortunately our adults are not taking accountability for, taking action for. So as you as the commission may know, the GRPD is getting over $75 million in funding, and in my opinion, I think that number is way too large. I don't believe that affordable housing crisis, mental health crisis, and homelessness crisis should be happening simultaneously as the same police force that is murdering people in the streets is getting millions and millions of dollars. Like, those two things, I just don't believe they can coexist, and they should coexist. I think it's a job of the adults, of the commission, of those in power to take accountability and do things about the issues that are actually affecting our city, not innocent people in the streets. And yeah, I just think some real accountability needs to be had. And I think it's sad that kids have to come up here, take time out of their day, out of their study time, to come up here and talk about the horrors that are happening in the streets. Thank you.
Good evening, all. Where do I start? Seems like we've had this conversation before. You couldn't hear me. I'm so sorry. Let me start again. I don't even know where to start because we've had this conversation a few times before. I'm going to bring it up again. First of all, we together with Michigan and King Park neighbors, support any effort by the city to ensure the safety of our immigrant community. They are important to us. They are a part of us. To our issue, traffic concerns, safety of our neighbors. I know that there is a budget that's going to be approved, and before I go any further, I want to thank our commissioners for clearing some things up for us this weekend. We appreciate it. Our issue remains the traffic on Kalamazoo Street, that expressway that we talked about, Mayor LeGrand. We have asked for a traffic signal to ensure the safety of our residents. And I understand that in your budget of, oh, wow, I guess it's a big figure. We just want to be a part of that budget. We want some clarity from you as to whether this is going to happen. A couple things over the weekend made it sound like it wasn't going to happen, that what we'd asked for was not even mentioned in the budget. We just need some clarity, folks, to know what's going to happen here. I'm not seeing any smiling faces sitting up there, so I'm wondering if maybe that's not the case. The areas that I'm talking about are Kalamazoo and Adams Street, Hancock. I understand that there's a couple of other areas that are in consideration, and those areas are important as well, but we just want to make sure that what we've asked for, what we've told our citizens, our residents that we're going to ask you for is given to us. I brought with us tonight a few folks from Together West Michigan. Would you folks stand over there, please? This is important to us. If it wasn't important to us, we wouldn't keep coming down here bugging you with it. What we would like is something, just give us a little concrete information, something that you're going to do what you said you're going to do. That's important to me. It's important to them. You have said that you would help us with this. And now it sounds like maybe you will, maybe you won't. We're citizens. We have a right to bring to you, our commissioners, what we want, and we just want you to be able to do what you say you're going to do. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, city leaders.
My name is Daniel Van Muers. I live in the First Ward, and I've been a 50-year resident of the southeast side of Grand Rapids. I'm an avid bicyclist. That's why I brought out Dr. Seuss tonight. And I've cycled since I was 14 years of age. For the past couple of decades, I've advocated for bicycle lanes in Grand Rapids. However, we are faced with what appears to be a dilemma. I'm told that before us now is a choice between increased bicycle infrastructure, a bike lane, and human safety. The children and adults who have been injured or killed by motor vehicle violence on Kalamazoo Avenue will probably never ride on a bike lane. Maslow's hierarchy of needs puts safety as a foundational need. Bike lanes and beautification projects are distant needs from safety. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Deb Van Dynen. I'm a member at Oakdale Park Church and Together West Michigan. Recently, a team from Mobile GR reached out to our Third Ward traffic team, asking us to meet with them next week, which we are glad to do. We have an idea that the conversation will be around a full-stop traffic light at Kalamazoo and Griggs Street. We know that there is a plan to have a cross-town bike lane that runs through that area, and that's a great thing for the city. We know that a full-stop traffic light is a big part of that. It provides safety for pedestrians. There's also a school crossing there. So the traffic light is a good thing. And in fact, that intersection at Griggs and Kalamazoo was a part of our initial proposal with Mobile GR. We know that there's a need there. But when we learned about the cost of some of these measures, we realized that we might have to change our focus. And we chose to focus on the area between Adams and Hancock, because this is a dangerous stretch of road where our neighbors tell us they do not feel safe. We've been told there's $600,000 earmarked for traffic safety. We know that this traffic signal at Griggs and Kalamazoo will be over $600,000, and our request is about for $150,000. So we feel a little concern. We feel a little conflict. We're unsure about where these funds are going to end up. And we've had some confirmation from some of you that we will be in the budget. We know the budget's not done. We've heard from most of you, probably all of you at one time or another, how important the safety of our residents is to you. And now is the time to prove it. We're asking you to make sure that four-way stop at Adams and the flashing crosswalk at Hancock is a part of this upcoming budget. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Champagne. I am a Third Ward resident and community engagement liaison with Oakdale Neighbors. So I'm considered one of the voices of the residents, the neighbors in that area. I'm always consistently engaging with the neighbors in the community, and I know for a fact that traffic is at the top of their concerns. Also, one of my concerns with just being in the area as much as I am, which is pretty much every day, because if I'm not working in the area, I'm worshiping in the area, driving back and forth to pick up kids or volunteering in the area. So there's a lot of people that use Kalamazoo Street each and every day. The traffic is it's a speedy raceway. There's speeding up and down Kalamazoo all the time. Houses have been crashed into, youth ran over on bicycles, even a lady killed on Kalamazoo Street. My office building, which is Oakdale Neighbors, have been crashed into. We had $40,000 worth of damage to our building. So while I'm at Oakdale Neighbors, guess what I decided to do? I moved my desk from the windows, from the doors. I sit sideways so I can see everything around me in case I got to move. The speeding is terrible. We have youth workers that come to us every summer from the Grow 1000 program, and we need them to be safe inside and outside of our building, as well as the other youth in the area crossing from school and the pedestrians and the bikers that's traveling throughout the street. Wanted to share a couple of stories from neighbors that I was told from neighbors. I know there's a lady that lives right on Kalamazoo Street, and she's in between Adam and Haw Street, and she's afraid to even get out of her car sometimes. She has to sit in her vehicle before she get out. She has a heart condition, and the traffic is just speeding. They're driving in the bike lanes, and it's just awful. Even afraid to do yard work right on the Kalamazoo in your yard, with your back facing the traffic. There's another resident. She lives off of Kalamazoo on a side street, but she will not stop on Kalamazoo to even turn on her street. She goes to the light, goes all the way around just to get to her street because she's afraid of being hit while she's driving while she's in the car, and then she have a son. So we are desperately in need of common devices to be considered in this upcoming budget. We just got to slow down the traffic. We are in need of these common devices. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Peter T. Winkle. I live and pastor in the 3rd Ward. I'm here to advocate for those same specific traffic safety materials that Together West Michigan is advocating for, and I'm doing so recognizing that they've been at this for 2 years now. It began with an extensive door-to-door campaign. One of the things you realize when you go door-to-door is that people are pretty cynical about you all. Too many people are deeply cynical that you're serving the interests of a few wealthy people, not just over the interests of a majority of people who vote for you, but at the expense of a majority of the people who vote for you. We're not always sure what to tell them because we were here when the Three Towers project came up for a vote, and we were here asking you to delay the vote because we felt like we needed more information. We wanted to know how the numbers were working and why there couldn't be a larger contribution to the Affordable Housing Fund, and what the return on investment would be, not only for the developers, but for the city itself. I remember coming across a community benefits agreement negotiated between the city of Nashville and the developer of a soccer stadium, and I was jealous of how long the list of benefits to the community was and how strong the accountability was. We knew that a better deal could be had. Still, the votes passed, save one, and we still haven't seen the information that we asked for. So when a nearly $1 billion project pops up in the headlines one day and then is approved a couple of months later, it appears that it's easier for a couple of billionaires to get a building project approved than it is for ordinary citizens to get a stop sign installed. And so then it becomes hard to tell people, yeah, you should not be cynical. You should stay engaged in the political process. So I think about the young people who are speaking up here. We want them to know this is not a performance, that this actually matters. So while this may be, this silence, what billionaires want, we still trust that it's not what you want. It's definitely not what we want. We simply want our neighbors, as you have heard many times tonight, to be safe. Safe when they cross the street, safe when they send their kids to school, safe to own a business or run a nonprofit on Kalamazoo, safe whether they were born here or not, safe whether they have documents or not. We don't think traffic safety on Kalamazoo Avenue and safety for immigrants and refugees is too much to ask when a few wealthy people get hundreds of billions of dollars without any pushback. So we know that no money is going directly from the budget into these big developments, but we're also not naive. When this commission forgoes over $100 million in revenue, we know that profits from these developments will not be fairly dispersed across the city. Those who need the most will see the least. So this is a chance to show the people who vote for you that you do serve their interests, making this a safer, better city for all. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Colby. I am a student at Grand Valley State University. I'm here to stand in solidarity with the brave high school students today who brought demands and criticisms of all of you for your continued support of the GRPD, your continued lack of action on any meaningful front combat the threat of ICE or any federal agency, not just ICE, be it Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, whoever, who could come into the city and terrorize our citizens. That budget is way too high. That's ridiculous. $75 million to a police force which is acting like an out-of-control wild animal that none of you have control of either. Don't act like you do. The police murder innocent people. Black and brown bodies are piling up. People have warned you, activists have warned you for years that this was going to happen, and still you do nothing. You act like these police budgets are necessary. And to echo the points that the last speaker was making, at a certain point, if several constituents come to you to say, we think that GRPD is not the solution to problems in the city, we think there are better avenues to invest in the community, to invest in making people safer, to invest in mental health care, and you ignore it, or if, I don't know, Movimiento Cosecha brings you 6 well-thought-out, popularly decided demands by an affected community, and you ignore it, then we are left with only one conclusion, is that is you either, 1, do not care, or 2, you do care and you have a special interest in funding these violent agencies and not keeping your constituency safe. So, shame on you all. Get it figured out. I dedicate the rest of my time to the families who have been affected by the violence of the GRPD and the violence of ICE.
Test. All right. Hello all, my name is Michael Seguenza and I'm a GV student and a GR-born native. I want to first thank Mark Washington for his wonderful presentation on the budget. I like the colors in the pictures. But on a real note, I'm here not to only ask the city to continue to invest in our communities, but to increase the feeling of safety and actual safety within our communities. That starts with 2 things: an implementation of sanctuary policies per Movimiento Cosecha's demands, and the accountability and further transparency within the killing of Daquan Johnson. LeGrand, you've spoken a bit today, and I caught a snippet about how you proved to the preventative public policy matter regarding an individual vandalizing historical sites. And I think it's great how you said that incarceration should be used for an individual who commits a crime that cannot be undone, or things like that that seriously harm. And I'd like to argue that death cannot be undone. If Grand Rapids City Prosecutor Chris Beckett can clear the charges of officers involved based on the charges of a crime based on another fact that a black man is dead, how can we see true justice and feel safe in these streets? And whether it be streets, crosswalks, police, or immigration, as residents of GR, we want to be safe. And I ask kindly now that you listen to your people and your constituents. And thank you for your time, commissioners.
Good evening. My name is Satori Spicer. I'm a resident of Grand Rapids, also the founder of Sudden Enlightenment. First, I want to thank Together West Michigan for helping me and supporting me in my initiative, but also helping the community and the advocacy work that they do. Sudden Enlightenment was created to build intentional community, especially for young adults and diverse voices who often look for spaces to feel seen, heard, and connected. Through our brunches, we uplift local small businesses, create opportunities and meaningful conversations to help educate community members about what's happening in the city of Grand Rapids. Tonight and many nights, I've heard the conversations surrounding public safety and where our city resources are being allocated. And while policy discussions are important, I also want to remind you guys that true public safety starts with community. It starts with people feeling connected. It starts with people feeling informed. It starts with people feeling supported. It starts with people feeling valued before a crisis happens. Rest in peace, Daquan Johnson. Many residents, especially young adults and underserved communities, want to be involved and often don't know where to start or don't feel welcome in conversations such as these. That's why spaces like ours matter. As commissioners, as city officials, I encourage you to continue meeting people where they are, not only in meetings like this, but in everyday spaces where community is already being built. Seeing emerging leaders, small businesses, grassroots organizations, and residents who care deeply about Grand Rapids and want to be a part of the solution. Our brunches happen monthly. Our next one is May 24th, 12 to 5. I ask you all to come just to be in community with the people. See what they care about. See what issues that bother them before you guys start making policies and making changes that people honestly don't care about. And it's only going to be a few group of people that come here, so I ask you guys not only let the community come to you, but come to the community and hear what they got to say as well. Thank you.
My name is Scott Atchison, Third Ward resident. I'm here to speak about property taxes and the budget, and the fees too. But one of the founding fathers said the power to tax is the power to destroy. And I'm just taxes in general. So I'm going to sing you the song about taxes. This is a song about taxes, T-A-X-E-S, sales, income, property, what are the rest? Before we sing about taxes, what's the difference in a tax and a fee? I guess it does not really matter when it's government and your money. They want to tax your car, want to tax your gas, want to tax your utilities, phone, internet, cable, and electricity. They want to tax you when you travel, hotel, motel tax. They want to tax you on a toll road or to park in a parking ramp. They want to tax you when you come. They want to tax you when you go. They want to tax you when the sun's shining, raining in the snow. Oh, this is a song about taxes, city, county, state, and the federal government with the biggest rate. They want to tax your driver's license, want to tax your license plate, want to tax your airline ticket at every airport gate. They want to tax you when you hunt. They want to tax you when you fish. They want to tax you any way they can. Ain't that a taxing situation? Would founding fathers say you're in a taxing situation? Have another tea party. They want to tax cigarettes, tax the booze, even want to tax my water and food. This is a song about taxes, impuestos en español. Sabes mi amigo, demasiado. They've got import, export, excise, inheritance, luxury. It's all about revenue from people like you and me. This is a song about taxes. Just what do you get? More overdressed, overpaid bureaucrats. This is a song about taxes. Just what do you get? If you do not pay them on time, you're going to get interest. This is a song about taxes. Just what do you get? More police officers to write you more tickets. This is a song about taxes. Just what do you get? I'll tell you one thing that you don't is guaranteed health benefits. This is a song about taxes. Gonna be a part 2 song. This is a song about taxes, and they even want to tax my dog.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. But here I go. So I know there's been a lot said tonight about the budget for the police, and I'm also aware that you can't do anything about it right now because of the city charter and the 36.5%. So understood. So what the next thing is we need to change the city charter, because before we do that, we can't, it's going to be what it is. But that doesn't mean that the money that can't be spent differently within the department. And I think that's where the conversation probably is. We can still have some accountability, some. Like the fact that most of the budget for the accountability office is going to body cameras is bizarre, right? Like another corporation is getting that money. Like that's insane. That is not oversight. That's just more like corporate handshaking and deals and whatever. Anyway, and I noticed there was some overtime and like more personnel and stuff. And I think everyone in this room knows that's not to keep anybody safe, but it's to keep property safe, right? We have a new amphitheater. We have a new soccer stadium. That is where those cops are going. They're gonna go and make sure that nothing gets harmed. Nothing gets harmed. People don't really ever count in that. So let's also don't pretend like cops care about humans. They don't. Also, I want y'all to kind of look at these students who are here right now, and I'm gonna assume that most of you are thinking like, I know, LeGrand, you're so tired. I'm so sorry. It's hard to listen to all of us. Anyway, I want you to like look at them right now, and I'm gonna assume most of you are like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Look at them participating in like civic things and like, good for them, and they're graduating, woo woo. But I really want you also to think about them being in a different environment, right? What if they're not in the city building? They're out somewhere in the streets, they're like having fun, they're living their lives, but they're black and brown, right? So I don't think you would see them the same out there, and I know the cops absolutely won't see them that way. So I just really want you to think about that. Aren't they adorable and precious right now here? But will they be in different environments? Will they be to you? Will they be to the GRPD? Something to think about.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Primero, estoy bien inspirada porque los estudiantes están aquí hablando enfrente de ustedes.
First of all, I want to say that I'm very inspired from all the students being here tonight.
Y no, Cosecha no los organizó.
And it's not from Cosecha that they're coming here.
No, ellos nos invitaron a nosotros no los organizamos.
They actually invited us. We didn't organize them.
Acerca de el presupuesto del año que entra, 75.4 millones para la policía para separar familias.
As far as the budget is concerned for next year, the proposal, it's $75.4 million for GRPD to separate families.
O ayudar a separar familias.
Or to help separate families.
Y les voy a explicar cómo lo hacen.
And I'll explain to you how they're doing it.
Pero también 75.4 millones para la policía que asesina a personas de color.
And also $75.4 million to the police who are assassinating people of color.
Eso no está bien.
That's not okay.
Les platico cómo separan familias.
I'll explain to you how they separate families.
Por si no lo saben.
In case you don't know.
Yo manejo y me detienen.
I drive and they pull me over.
Por algo sencillo, a lo mejor una luz que está fundida.
For something simple, maybe a light was out.
Después, como son racistas, me llevan a la cárcel.
And then because they're racist, they take me to jail.
En la cárcel, la cárcel comparte información con ICE.
And the jail shares that information with ICE.
Y después ICE me pone algo que se llama ICE hold.
And then ICE puts something on me, it's called an ICE hold.
Por eso es que están cooperando, porque empieza con mi color de piel y con una luz que está fundida.
That's how they're cooperating, because of my skin color and maybe a burnt taillight.
Que a todos nos pasa, pero lo que la luz fundida de mi vehículo a mí me pone en una situación de detención.
It happens to everyone, but for me, that light that's not working puts me in a lot of trouble.
Eso es la cooperación. Si no hubiera una policía que estuviera viendo mi color,
That is how the cooperation works. If there was a police that was colorblind,
y que me diera un ticket nada más por algo de tráfico que puede suceder.
and that would just give me a ticket like everybody else for some traffic violation.
Pero eso no está pasando. Lo he visto muchas veces.
But that's not how it works, and I've seen it many, many times.
Por eso es que estoy oponiéndome a 75.4 millones de dólares que van hacia la policía local.
That's why I'm against spending $75.4 million on the police department.
Aunque ustedes dicen que no están cooperando, están cooperando. Yo lo he visto.
Even though you're saying they're not cooperating, but I've seen it, they are cooperating.
Por eso es que estoy aquí pidiendo que pasen las políticas santuario que ya hemos puesto enfrente de ustedes.
And that's why I'm asking you to pass the sanctuary policies that we've been asking for.
Y también que piensen diferente. Cómo utilizar algo como las violaciones de tráfico para arreglar las violaciones de tráfico.
And to change your mind on how to resolve simple traffic violations.
Por ejemplo, ¿qué tal si se hace diferente que un oficial que no esté armado, como los que están poniendo tickets en los estacionamientos, que se pasan del tiempo de estacionar?
Like police not being armed, kind of like when they give out parking tickets.
So, esas personas que están checando una violación de tráfico, que se pasan del tiempo, no traen un arma, pero sí están enforzando la ley de tráfico.
Those people, they also charge for traffic violations, but they're not armed and they just give you a ticket.
¿Por qué no forman algo así? Que el estar monitoreando las leyes de tráfico no envuelva violencia o un arma.
Why can't we do the same thing with other traffic enforcement, that it doesn't involve gun or force?
Así que el presupuesto se puede ir hacia algo que sea más civil y menos violento.
So part of the budget could go to some more civil tasks and not for violent ones.
Piensen afuera de lo que ya saben. Hagan algo bueno para nuestra comunidad.
Think outside the box and do something better for our community.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jacinda Swanson. I live in the 3rd Ward and have spent almost 30 years researching and teaching democratic theory and social justice. I am so very grateful for all these engaged, principled students who have shown up to speak, 1, in favor of concrete policies to mitigate the harm to our immigrant neighbors and to end GRPD's cooperation with ICE, and 2, for major changes to policing. Far too many people, especially Black people, have been killed, assaulted, arrested, and harassed by GRPD. And too many activists trying to create a better world have been needlessly arrested under GRPD tactics that reinforce Trump's fascist agenda. The proposed GRPD budget includes $1.7 million for an Axion contract including body cameras. Yet, as policing expert Andrea Ritchie points out, the failure of body cameras to prevent police violence while increasing the surveillance that fuels incarceration, detention, and deportation has been well documented. Other experts observe that body cameras footage is frequently controlled, delayed, selectively released, or weaponized to shield officers from accountability rather than to provide transparency, as frequently happens in Grand Rapids. Instead of spending millions of dollars on cops who harm us or who overwhelmingly show up after crimes are committed, property crimes often, the city should start investing in common sense programs that actually make people safer, like secure housing, clean water, mental health services, public transportation, affordable child and elder care, nutritious food, and water pipe mains that do not break and damage people's homes and cause illness from black mold. The proposed budget includes $75.4 million for GRPD. As Jeff Smith explains, if the GRPD budget was reduced by only $5 million, that could provide enough money to cover the costs of rent for 277 people for a year. If we are serious about having a democratic form of city government, we need, 1, as Jeff argues, a full-blown participatory budgeting process that would allow for a full year of discussion, debate, and development of a budget that would truly meet the public's needs. 2, full community control over the police, including an independent, citizen-controlled police oversight body fully empowered to review police harassment and violence and hold wrongdoers accountable and set policy. 3, to revise our city charter to replace our unelected, unaccountable city manager with better resourced and many more city commissioners who listen and serve their constituents, not just the local oligarchs like the DeVosses.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm a resident of Grand Rapids. I volunteer with Rapid Response to ICE. First, I want to point out that nothing about this budgeting process truly values public input. There have been 90+% of the opportunities to engage in the budgeting process, or when most of us are at work or at school. Like, the process of getting public engagement has to be way more drawn out before this is in any way representative, of what the public wants and needs. I also want to point out that the amount we spend on policing and the amount we fund them to oppress our neighbors and our communities is morally reprehensible. If we reduce the funding down to even just the minimum in the charter, which the minimum in the charter should morally be 0, by the way, but the amount of better services, affordability, and other priorities that could be funded, is immense. But now that we fund GRPD to cooperate with ICE, and despite everything we've been told, like folks like Hema said, we see it weekly. If they're not directly assisting like they did in the case of when Byron was detained, they're surveilling those of us opposing ICE, they're providing scene security for ICE. And I've seen the pattern of them providing scene security and surveilling those of us doing this work for the almost 10 years I've been involved in this fight. And in the constant, and even outside of ICE, the constant violence that Black and brown communities see that we're funding, that my tax dollars are funding, it's horrific and should be spent on actual community safety. The other thing I want to mention related to police violence is so when I'm not volunteering, I work in early intervention services for for very young students with very severe behavioral challenges. And something that keeps me up at night is what happens when these kids encounter GRPD when they get bigger, or even worse, when they're adults. Because we're doing everything we can, but some of them are going to have these challenges lifelong. And instead of funding better services and better supports for them, we're funding the very people who are the greatest threat to them living, safe and fulfilling lives.
Hello, friends. Mark from Grand Rapids. On this budget, I could care less about how the money is spent. What I care about is where should this money be allocated to the most. Now listen to the people here earlier talking about what's going on Kalamazoo. Some request traffic lights, but the traffic lights are very expensive. They're expensive to set up. They're expensive to maintain. My suggestion is let's put roundabouts in that area. Big giant roundabouts on those intersections that they was discussing. Complete with bump-out extensions. And if need be, some pedestrian warning signals. That's where your money should go. It's a lot cheaper. It won't interrupt the flow of traffic, and it will decrease the Martin dragway tactics that goes on in that area. So you better think about this. Because the money you spend among other things, might not go that far, because you might be asking for more money. That will be a problem. So think about it and have a more suitable solution to these budget decisions. Thank you.
Russell Olmsted, First Ward, West Side. On the budget, I want to, there have been a series of recommendations that have been put forth around oversight and accountability for having to do with recommendations around the Civilian Appeals Board for the city. Some of those recommendations may in fact take budget allotments. And from what I've been reading inside of proposals brought forth to this point, I haven't seen any sort of allotment that might account for that. If, depending on what those findings are, when the manager comes forward with the with what the recommendations are around those things that have been put forth. So I'd like to see that put in, at least some sort of discussion around what can be set aside for possible allotments around that. It wouldn't be a lot of money, but accountability takes money. And we have to fund our values. If we value accountability, we have to fund it, and we have to do so properly. And that means taking the time to discuss it, to set up an allotment for it, be deliberate, be intentional around it. And on that note, intentionality, funding our values, Cosecha, as well as numerous other people, have been coming forward for such a long time around these recommendations, these 6 demands. I know that there's been debate, especially from the mayor, on whether or not it's necessary, whether or not it's not. We also talk so much in this city about, we can try this. If it doesn't work, we can change policy. This was brought up when we changed the dash routes, right? We can try this. If it doesn't work, we can come back and address it. But when it comes to situations like this, where there's a movement of community coming forward for years to discuss these things, to try these things, to help support people, to help stop and mitigate and minimize the harm that's happening inside a community, to help restore trust, to help go after the trauma and address the trauma that is happening in these communities. We don't try. We don't try it and see if it works. We don't listen and see if it works. And I'd ask you to rethink that. I know it's hard. I know that there are a lot of problems, from thoughts of what can happen, what can open the city up from a liability concern, from federal bureaucrats, especially with the current administration. But you're elected to lead, you're elected to represent and support us in these moments, to support the community in need in these moments. So please, try it. There's no harm. If it doesn't work, we can address it, just like we've tried on so many other things. Thank you.
I'm Jessica. I live in Grand Rapids. LeGrand, I just have a pop quiz question for you. Can you recite 3 commentaries that the community members have said in the past few minutes? Because I haven't seen you pay attention to not one person up here, which is pretty common for you. But anyways, let me get started. City commissioners, you are not bystanders. You are not neutral. You are the architects of what policing looks like in this city. You decide the budgets. You define the priorities. You choose what safety means, and more importantly, who it's for. So let's be honest, if policing in this city feels violent, excessive, or disconnected from the needs of the people, that is not an accident, that is a policy choice. And that means it can be changed. Now, I understand when we say abolition, some of you freeze. You say it's unrealistic. You say you can't imagine a world without policing as we know it. But here's the question. What kind of leadership refuses to imagine something better? If you can't imagine abolition, then at the very least, you should be able to imagine this, ending over policing. Because right now what we have is not safety. What we have is surveillance. What we have is punishment for poverty. What we have is an overinvestment in force and an underinvestment in care. So let's start there.
Let's start by defunding the conditions that lead to over-policing and funding the solutions that actually keep people safe. Imagine a program right now today that removes police from the mental health crises, a program that sends trained community responders instead of armed officers, a program that interrupts cycles of harm before they escalate, a program rooted in care, not in control. That's not radical, that's responsible, that's being human. Imagine investing in housing so people aren't criminalized for being unhoused. Imagine funding youth programs so kids aren't targeted before they even have a chance. Imagine restorative justice practices that actually heal harm instead of reproducing it. That is how you eliminate over-policing. And let's be clear, this is within your power, Mr. LeGrand. You don't need permission, you need courage. You need to grow some balls, probably. Because every dollar you choose to move, every program you choose to fund, every policy you choose to pass, it shapes what safety looks like in this city. So the question is not, can we change policing? The question is, will you? Will you continue to fund a system that escalates harm, or will you invest in one that prevents it? Will you cling to what is familiar, or will you lead us toward what is possible? Because the community is already imagining it. The community is already building it. The only thing missing is whether you will stand with us or stand in the way. This is your moment to decide what the side of history you'll be on. Not in words, but in actions. Mayor LeGrand, you also stated in the elevator what you can't do, but I'm assuming based on your history, you need it spelled out to you, since the community already knows you're not the brightest crayon in the box. You said you want freedom for all immigrants, so put your actions where your mouth is and find a way to get that army and get that shit started. Mayors, under the 10th Amendment, local governments cannot be forced to enforce federal immigration law, allowing mayors to pass policies restricting local police from assisting with ICE detainers.
Your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, well, I'm going to say free Kai, justice for DeQuan Johnson, justice for Patrick Luoya, justice for Riley Doggett, justice for Samuel Sterling, justice for all stolen lives, and free Kai and boycott Long Road City. I'm done.
Hello, I'm Jasmine from Easttown, and I invite everybody to drive by the intersection of Lake and Robinson in Easttown, where we now have the biggest traffic light I have ever seen in my life. And I've lived there for 25 years, and I've never heard anyone asking for a traffic light there. There's another one about 10 feet down the road. So I wonder if we could maybe shave this one in half and put the other one where people have been working for 2 years to get a traffic light. But seriously, why are traffic lights getting so expensive? I mean, this really looks like it could survive a nuclear attack. And I just think somebody should be taking a look more closely at the costs of these things and at how we prioritize the traffic lights, because people have been waiting for a long time for that one. So let's pay attention. Thanks.
My name's Charlie Snedeker, lifelong resident, Kent County. First off, I wish that gentleman that sang that song had stuck around. I wanted to commend him. It was a great song, great song. I've got a poem, okay? Patrick Leoya, Riley Doggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQueen Johnson. Patrick Leoya, Riley Doggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQueen Johnson. Patrick Leoya, Riley Doggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQueen Johnson. Patrick Leoya, Riley Doggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQueen Johnson. Patrick Leoya, Riley Doggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQueen Johnson. Patrick Leoya, Riley Doggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQueen Johnson. Patrick Leoya, Riley Doggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQueen Johnson. Patrick Laoya, Riley Daggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQuayne Johnson. Patrick Laoya, Riley Daggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQuayne Johnson. Patrick Laoya, Riley Daggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQuayne Johnson. Patrick Laoya, Riley Daggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQuayne Johnson. Patrick Laoya, Riley Daggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQuayne Johnson. Patrick Laoya, Riley Daggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQuayne Johnson. Patrick Laoya, Riley Daggett, Samuel Sterling, Hank Weimer, DeQuayne Johnson. Do not forget these names when you give GRPD $75 million. Do not forget these names. These were people. They're dead. GRPD is the cause.
Seeing no one else, we'll close that hearing on the budget. And that brings us to public comments and anything that anyone wants to address that's not budget related. Although I did obviously give some latitude there to folks who were not directly addressing budget issues. So if you can announce who you are and what where you live, that'd be great. D. Jones, we know where you live.
For sure. I'm D. Jones. I stay in the Orchards at 910 Apartment 1D. So a couple days ago, I spoke to a CEO that is in Ukraine. He runs a company called Adline Technologies. And I was speaking to him, and he didn't have fluent English, so he had to have a translator. It was a beautiful lady from Ukraine, and she was translating everything that I was saying to him. And so I was telling him how I don't believe that our president and our federal government representation of the things that they're doing and the genocide and the bombings and the killings that they're doing across the United States doesn't reflect every American's values and what we think that, you know, that is wrong. And so I spoke to him about that. He was like, thank you, you know what I'm saying? Because I actually had to, our company was actually hit by some of the stuff that the United States have been doing, so they had to relocate their 3D printing construction company to another city. But they actually have the cheapest 3D printers on earth. They're actually piloting, they have 3D printers for $150,000 to $160,000. And it's crazy because they are also trying to come here. He said we'd like to supply it and help with adaptation of our 3D printers for Michigan projects, a joint workforce for programs in Bulgaria and Michigan, and federal grants and pilot projects in affordable and sustainable housing. That's a conversation that I had on Friday, and then after that conversation, the same day while I was in Holland, Michigan, I actually had that conversation with the guy from Ohio from the 3D printing construction. And then I spoke to community action out there in Holland, and I canvassed and collect some signatures to get cash out of politics, because I'm tired of all of these bad politicians and people being bought by by these big companies instead of serving the constituents. They lie to us, they deceive us, and I'm tired of people lying and deceiving me, and I'm tired of people lying to and deceiving the constituents and not standing on business and not standing to that oath, because if I ever run for office, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to take the hard-nosed challenges. I'm going to face the community. I'm going to do what's best for the community, as I do as a person, regardless if I have to take a hit for speaking out about police brutality or affordable housing or holding the billionaires accountable. I'm going to keep doing that. And I'm very, very happy and excited to say, honestly, again, thank you, JLL, for considering us for a recommendation to purchase stock in schools so we can get to the core root of the social issues, things that politicians can't do, or we can work beside politicians to fix, because I believe I'm a great leader and I'm going to change things, and I've already proved that I'm a great leader. I brought the largest esports regional finals after we ended our partnership, brought 39 high schools and colleges to the DeVos place. And this year on Thursday, when they passed the Clarity Act for the markup, I'm going to have a conversation to bring 80 schools to the DeVos place this year. Y'all have a good night.
John, Second Ward. I'm going to call a couple commissioners and a couple people by name, and it's not going to be negative. Mr. Hondorp, your city clerk staff treated me very well today. They were rock star staff. I recommend, I need a precinct map of the city of Grand Rapids, not in 3 pieces. It would be wonderful if you could put it into a PDF file that I could download and then take to FedEx or something like that to print myself, because you used to have the old roll-up maps, and what you have now is insignificant for what I need to use it for. Commissioner Knight and Commissioner Yasasi, I feel we are being underserved by transportation in the Creston neighborhood. I have to walk a mile to the bus stop to walk a mile to the amphitheater. That's 2 miles. I am not handicapped enough to be handicapped, but I'm handicapped enough to not be able to walk that 2 miles. The third issue is you changed the rapid, or the dash. I used to get on at the other city place. I used to park in the parking lot for free after hours and take the dash downtown to city events on the weekend and that. You've eliminated my access to get downtown. I can't afford what I have to do. I've had to take budget cuts in recently, just like I suggest $75 million to the police department do. I'm a 61-year-old, 6'2", 250-pound-year-old white male. I let the police department know they're number one every time they drive by me, after seeing the demilitarization that they've done. I shouldn't be doing that. I remember when policing was cool, not the BS we have today. But that's what we got to do. We need to bring back the Leonard and Monroe Street dash stop. We need a better map, and we need to bring back better policing. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bukelwa Onsby. I apologize about the way I speak. Is due to my stroke. I feel touched by all that's been presented and would like to initially make a request with the fact that I'm disabled now. Most of you know me before as not undisabled, and this has caused my predicament. I'm here because, one, accessing this floor is rather difficult for someone like me. First of all, I don't have all the nice pushchairs or facilities that others have. I've just recently had my stroke in August 2024. Therefore, I have to walk to come up to the various facilities. None of the staff have been able to help with me to access this floor, though I also have to walk and having to ask the young lady to come to the podium. Secondly, my disability is asking me to request from you, me as an individual who is a business owner. I have a company called Taste of Africa, Michigan, and I am operating from Kalamazoo Kezu Station. I've been on that street for years, and I'm back there already working as a disabled person. I therefore am appealing for you to consider that effect. Someone like me has to use that road on Kalamazoo Avenue. Please ensure we have some form of access. I don't like when I jaywalk the streets, because it's a long way to walk down to go to the, for example, Hub 07. I have to jaywalk. As soon as I can see there is no traffic, I walk past. The last reason I'm here is because I am a member of the Boston Square Business Association. I realize my time has finished. I'm also...
Your stroke, ma'am, you're speaking slowly, so take your time.
I'm also here as a representative of a treasurer of the Boston Square Business Association. We have had difficulties getting ourselves ready, but I have been with the Business Association from its inception, and I've decided to stay on it because we need it to thrive for businesses in our area. And I represent a lot of businesses in the KZoo station itself, and therefore really would appreciate more concern for such businesses to operate in that area. We use that cross-port. We have to cross across to the new facility built and do our business catering from there. And it is therefore very, very disheartening to find that the crosswalk may not be approved. It may be approved, but I'm here to represent for those three concerns. Me as an individual person, I'm now disabled and will continue to be disabled, but I have interest. I want to run my business, which is Taste of Africa, from the area. I'm continuing my role as a Boston Square Business Association member to keep businesses up and thriving in the area. Thank you.
Mi nombre es Gemma, otra vez.
I'm Gemma again.
Hablé acerca de cómo la policía está cooperando con ICE.
I've already talked about how the police is cooperating with ICE.
Ahora quiero explicarles cómo ustedes, como oficiales locales, pueden detener eso.
And now I want to tell you how you as local officials can prevent that.
Las 6 políticas santuario que hemos puesto no son imaginarias, no son algo que no se pueda hacer.
The 6 sanctuary policies are not imaginary. It's not something that can't be done.
Se lo han hecho en otras ciudades y en otros condados.
In other counties and other cities, it has been done.
Voy a concentrarme en 2.
I'm going to focus on 2 of them.
La primera es el prohibir que haya un contrato 287G con ICE.
The first one is to prevent any contract 287G with ICE.
El alcalde dijo que aunque quisiera no lo podría hacer. Esto es incorrecto porque ya lo hemos checado con varios abogados.
The mayor said that it's not something that he could change, and that is incorrect. We have talked to several lawyers.
Puede haber una ordenanza en la ciudad que prohíba esos contratos.
There can be a local ordinance in the city that prevents those contracts.
Entonces, eso se puede hacer. El otro es la cooperación con compartir información reunida por la ciudad con ICE.
That can be done, and also the information that gets collected and shared with ICE by the city.
Esa es otra ordenanza que se puede hacer por parte de la ciudad.
That's another thing that the city can do as an ordinance.
de las 6 políticas que hemos estado hablando, 2 lo pueden hacer ya. ¿Cuándo lo van a introducir? ¿Alguna de ustedes, comisionados, cuándo lo van a introducir?
From the 6, 2 can easily be done now. So when are you going to do it?
¿Alguien lo va a hacer? ¿Qué miedo tienen?
One of you is going to do it. What are you afraid of?
Que no les den dinero a las personas que donan a sus campañas.
You afraid you're not getting money for your campaigns?
¿Por qué no están escuchando a la comunidad?
Why aren't you listening to the community?
Y también quiero hablar acerca de cómo la policía está violentando a nuestras personas de color.
And I also want to talk about how the police is treating people of our color.
No hablo mucho de mi familia, pero lo voy a hacer en este caso para ilustrar la información.
I normally don't talk about my family, but I will do it here as an example.
Mi nieto es birracial, es latino y es afrodescendiente.
My son is biracial. He is Latino and also African American.
Nieto.
My grandson.
Es una alegría que tengo a mi nieto, ¿verdad? Vive conmigo.
It's fantastic to have my grandson living with me.
So, él es un bebé, pero tengo miedo que cuando crezca, la policía lo vaya a asesinar.
He's a baby, but I'm afraid that when he grows, the police is going to assassinate him.
Porque ya ha pasado. Entonces, tengo una voz en este momento para decirles que tienen que hacer justicia para estas familias que han perdido a sus hijos o a sus nietos.
Because it has already happened, and that's why I want to tell you it's time for you to bring justice to those families and what happened to them.
Porque si yo estoy en esa situación, viviría aquí, no dormiría, porque es tu familia, puede ser tu familia, puede ser alguien que tú conoces, y otra vez, no están haciendo nada.
If I were in your situation, I don't know how you can sleep. If somebody in your family would be in that situation, what would you do? How would you feel?
Entonces, ustedes están sentados ahí en una posición que pueden hacer algo. Tomen esa posición y hagan algo.
You are here in a position, in a chair, where you have the power to change things. Make the changes.
Mark back. As I said before, the United States of America is becoming the donut hole of the world. We have Republican states snatching up districts, slicing them up, gerrymandering, without the will of the people. These people are going insane. And if we're not careful here in Michigan, they can do it here. We don't want Maggot Perry Johnson or that racist Anthony Hudson to become governor. They're going to make this state like Louisiana. You know, 46 in healthcare, 44th in healthcare, 46th in education, 48th in infrastructure, 49th in the environment, 50th in the economy, 50th in crime, 50th overall. That's the bottom of the barrel. This is why we have to mobilize, get registered, and go vote. Now, it's too bad the high schoolers didn't stay, because the ones that are graduating, they represent the worst demographic of voters. If they want change, tell their parents to get up and go vote. Because these midterms are now more critical than ever. Federal, state, local, school boards, the whole schmo. What I want to see is 85 to 90% turnout. Because if we voted on numbers, the bad guys won't have no power, which is what they want. Thank you. Revenge 2026.
Thank you. Seeing no more public comments, we will move to closing comments by commissioners. Commissioner Perdue, are you comfortable first?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing. As city manager opened up one of our hearings tonight, we have been in budget talks for several weeks. And I think what I heard from you all tonight and what we hear throughout the year as we engage on what's important to you is certainly not just what policies we have in place and what budget we have in place, but also ensuring that we have accountability and a mechanism to make sure that the policies that we put in place are working as intended. I hear concerns around affordability, continual push to act in alignment with our values and to be biased towards action. So thank you all for continuing. That's what I heard from you all today, so thank you for sharing that. I also want to recognize a lot of the young people who spoke today. Many of them I recognize from the annual Kids Speak event. That is an event where young people in our area in grades kindergarten through 12th grade give testimony on an issue that's important to them. And this year they were invited to give testimony on a range of policy issues at the local, state, and federal level. And so I recognize some snippets of those testimonies, and I think you all can agree and have agreed that they're really valuable. We have a lot of amazing talent in our city. I want to recognize one of the students that spoke to us tonight is one of 2 Gates scholars that is graduating from GRPS. Gates scholarship you earn, it is very, very competitive. Only 1% of applicants are chosen. I mean, 2 of our own students from GRPS were chosen, so I want to recognize that. Thank you all to Together West Michigan, Movimiento Cosecha for coming and continue to talk about how we can move our city forward. I think we've been in conversation around the progress related to traffic safety, so thank you for your true leadership and advocacy to elevate that concern and work closely with department staff, work closely to make sure that we understand and hear you loud and clear, from walking Kalamazoo with you last summer to see for ourselves exactly what you mean, and we appreciated that. Always open to continue to have discussions on how we can continue to live our values and protect our neighbors in ways that truly do align and live out in our policies and our budgets. So thank you all for coming, and I'll be around after if folks want to continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kurgo?
All right, third ward first. Well, thanks everybody for coming out this evening. We've had good conversations since 8 a.m. this morning. I love a productive day. To the hundreds of folks who have organized throughout the third ward, we've been talking about this for many years. The money is allocated. It is happening. We of course have not approved it yet, but we got clear direction and support from our colleagues today that they are going to support what Commissioner Perdue and I put forward, which includes $600,000 in fiscal year 26 for street calming along Kalamazoo. What you all have illuminated for us and staff is a need for increased transparency on our processes, right? So we will continue to be lockstep with you all as we assess what works best. It's sort of like baking a cake from the feedback that I've gotten back from staff of we want to make sure these steps are right so we get the best baked cake and that it's not disjointed. So what that means is we're going to make sure that what comes first is also in line with the mobile GR strategy and prioritization, which we've already done. So it's going to be a coming back of that. We will come back to that June 2nd is when we have the next economic development project team meeting. In addition, I am so thankful that Ms. Smith followed up with you all as I talked about today. I'm so thankful for that timely communication with you all, and I will see if I can attend that meeting as well. So we have not lost this. We have heard you, and I appreciate it as this is very necessary for not only the 3rd Ward, but travelers, folks from every ward going down to Kentwood, to 28th Street. It is important. It has not been lost, and it's going to happen. In addition to that fiscal year 26 allocation of $600,000, we are actively working with Ms. Smith and Mobile GR to see what an annual allotment for traffic safety and calming could look like possibly for the 3rd Ward Equity Fund. So how can the $600,000, as you said, things are expensive, inflation is real. So how are we going to continue to make sure that this is a linear motion in the direction of safety for our ward? So it is a part of our concerns. It is for the good of not only the 3rd Ward, but our whole community. So thank you again and look forward to continuing that conversation. But it's happening. And excited for other budget things, but even before I came into elected office, I was really excited about street safety. So to keep my remarks as short as I can, that's what I'll drill into. And thank you all again for coming out. Good evening.
Thank you. Commissioner Knight.
Not a lot to say. Grateful that conversation, especially around the safety and thinking about the 3rd Ward Equity Fund and how we can reimagine how some of that funding can help a continual process of doing work over in the 3rd Ward. Also to the comment from the gentleman about parking, unfortunately, we don't control the Rapid. They are their own entity, and they make decisions on where they place parking or bus stops based on ridership and all of those other things. And knowing that the Dash, we did have to scale back on that for this year, and hopefully we'll be looking at that and seeing what the impact is and some creative ways to do some different things. I think Mobile GR is talking about possibly some shuttles that will be able to go deeper in communities and areas where the Dash can't meet. And so that people will have those opportunities, but that continues to be looked at, and so hoping that we'll come to some solutions with that as we continue to move forward, and that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Sassi.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm going to talk twice as long because we didn't have time to talk at the last meeting, but I'm glad I told Commissioner Perdue, I'm like, if they don't get this traffic stop, not that I don't want to keep talking about it, but I also think like in a lot of these conversations, I get maybe the uncertainty, and it's a big, big packet, right? And it's overwhelming. And quite honestly, in a lot of these conversations, we don't get down to the project level, I would say, that typically happens. So, that's something that was different. But I think Kalamazoo is a very interestingly designed street. I think it's hard to navigate, and I've lived here my whole life. So yes, that was affirmed, I think, pretty clearly in the meeting. So even though I am not a 3rd Ward commissioner, I just felt the need to kind of say that. I want to bring a couple of things to celebrate before I respond to a few other things. One, this week is, I think, the 48th annual Heritage Hill Tour of Homes. And after a lot of consternation this fall about if the Voight House was going to be sold and turned into high-rise condos, I'm really happy that the Neighborhood Association was able to work with the museum. Thank you, Dale, for that work, and the volunteers of that board to make the Voight the Voight House to be one of the stops. And so that's actually a pretty big deal. So congratulations to them, and check it out if you're around this weekend. There's a lot of things to do this weekend, and some people will be going downtown and some people want to do something else. I also want to congratulate a really important First Ward business, Maggie's Kitchen, celebrated 43 years in business. Today we talked a little bit about the importance of supporting small businesses. We also shared just the difficulty of supporting small businesses during this time. So I missed their 43rd anniversary, but I look forward to going in a few weeks with some folks because they are a staple in the First Ward and in our Latino community. I want to also respond about a few things about, like, what are we able to do and try, and what are we doing or not doing? I think it's hard to sit up here sometimes and you're running through all the things, like, what have we done? What have been the investments? I have this packet that has kind of like all the investments that we had in the budget process. But one of the things that I think is a really good reflection of not only this body, but bodies before, staff, certainly staff since you've been here, city manager, is our co-response model that we use with our police department. This was something before I got in commission that I think was an idea that a lot of individuals had, but maybe was not seen in practice. And so, you know, for me, I talked a bit today about how do we not chase like the next thing, or we want to do this thing because they do it in Columbus or they do it in Cincinnati, but really saying, what have we invested here in the city and how do we make it stronger? And so, to me, our co-response model is one of those things working alongside our police department. I had the ability to see that in action when a constituent friend was going through the eviction process with somebody who continually called on them and made complaints, and then after they were evicted, tried to break into the home. And I went there because I wanted to support my friend and my constituent, and I just had to stay a little bit away because I don't know how everybody stayed calm in that situation. I was impressed by it, and I think it's something that we need to continue to do more of. And I think that's something we're constantly evaluating. And so that is a significant investment that we've made in something new or different with our public safety. I also think, you know, we live in this constant, like, how do we feel safe? And just last week, a number of people didn't feel safe when they were on a school soccer field, and have a lot of feelings about it because that's where my niece goes to school, and I pick her up and I drop her off. And, you know, I think there's a lot of comments about, you know, this community isn't safe, or this, I don't want my kids to go there. And you know, I think the reality is so senseless, where somebody shot somebody else, and obviously it's got to go through the courts, but it was over something so small, and just so frustrating how that was. And I don't have the answer for it. I read, like many of you, I think, put out statements or comments, and I saw some of other colleagues did, and I think everybody was just sort of in shock. And so, Commissioner, you brought up today, and you have continued to bring up, like, how do we hold space for these things? How do we make sure we're there in that moment? And I think many people are working to do that. And it's also like, I think the staff members are trying to do that. Some of us wanted to go there the next day, and then they continue to have school closed. And so I wanted to bring that up again, only because I did talk, know some of the folks who are related to the individual, young Jeremiah who was shot, one of the individuals who lost their life. And, you know, they're like, why can't we have police here and making sure people don't have guns? And, you know, my response is, I do believe in a comprehensive, robust public safety system. And I don't think if a police officer was down the block, that would have necessarily prevented that shooting from happening. And I think that's hard to hear because in that moment, people want security and certainty and knowing that how did we make sure this doesn't happen, including myself. But I know that also through all the other efforts, the collective sort of very complex public safety investments we made, that the answer is not that simple. I do really think that we're going to have to continue, and I know this body has also said what are the things that we can work on a state level, and just having easy access. How does an 18-year-old have access to a gun? And I know some of you up here are responsible gun owners, and maybe I'll be there one day with you, Commissioner. But I think we need to talk more about, what guns do. And I think in a lot of our communities, we've just been like, guns are bad, stay away from them. And we're not communicating how serious a weapon they are. And so I just wanted to bring that up. I do know the family was very grateful to GRPD for the life-saving measures that happened on the playground, even though Jeremiah did pass away. There was also talk about traffic stops, and back in 2017, we did engage in a traffic stop study, sort of looking at what is our longitude and latitude of how do we respond in these instances. And this is, again, something I would say, city manager, that we worked in terms of policy on, of like having the discretion and the judgment in those traffic stops. Just last week, I had somebody reach out to me, and I shared with city manager and with my colleague in the second ward of an individual who called me after their spouse was involved in an accident. And the individual that hit them was somebody who spoke Spanish, didn't speak English, and they were very concerned about what would happen to them after this traffic stop. They worked with the officer to be able to have somebody to come on site and to do some translation, and were assured that there would not be any ticket at that point. And were able to confirm that the person was able to confirm that the person got home. I'm getting really into the weeds tonight, and I realize that, but there was a lot of things talked about tonight, and that person said, you know what, Commissioner, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to trust. I see these things happening in other cities. I see them happening in our city. And in that moment, we were able to use that discretion, that judgment that we do apply in those traffic stops. That has been, again, something that we can try. We have the ability to, because that was really something that came out of that 2017 traffic stop. I think I have been on record and will continue to say, I think the conversations around a sanctuary city and policy, the 287 agreements typically, as a city, different than the county commission or the sheriff's department, where we would say that sheriff has the ability to move forward with any policies that they want. They don't need the oversight of this body to do that, of their body to do that. That is different here. We typically make policy of things that we will do in the affirmative versus things that we won't do. If we don't do them, then we don't act upon them. And, many of you have seen Mayor LeGrand and I spar sometimes up here, but what I would also say is I know very deeply, Mayor, that you are looking at ways to make sure how we are not criminalizing individuals for their immigration status, and I appreciate that, even if sometimes I don't always agree with you, I'll be honest. And you probably don't always agree with me, but I do know that this is something that you've looked at critically. You have asked both our city attorney, our city manager, have spoken with our police chief, and I think, I can't speak for all of you up here, but I know many of you, we have talked about this extensively of how this plays out in practice. Because in 2020, I think there was a lot of things that we did. In particular, remember, my colleague, Commissioner Reppert, really wanted us to put forth, and we did, a resolution, I don't remember now, but legalizing the mushrooms. Or not legalizing, but, psychedelics. And when it came down to it, or, decriminalizing it, there were about 6 counts of individuals being charged with this, like 6 people over like 7 years. And so the one thing that I feel like I've learned over this time is that there is a lot more power in the individual police practices and the individual policies that we are having in terms of how, say, our police department moves forward with these actions and activities. So I would say that. The last couple things I want to say, and I'll try not to belabor these too much, is on the dash, just for everyone. We did hear from some people. I would say this has been in my inbox and today. While we're having this budget discussion, we are constantly, every single month and every 6 months ago and the 6 months before that, affirming what are the things that we are interested in investing in. And I think we had to make the difficult decision that is often a budget of how many people are impacted by one decision. And last year we made the unanimous decision that we did not want to see rate increases to parking rates overall. So what does that mean? There's no revenue from the dash coming through. We have to make a decision of how this gets invested. And I think that I've also heard from many people who utilize the dash, but more people would be impacted by that parking increase. And that's how I made that decision to move forward with that. I've also heard from businesses that they felt like the current model or the previous model was not working in its current format, and then we need more people to be able to support that investment overall to have that share, and that it just didn't feel right to continue for that model to be coming fully out of our general fund. Again, hearing all the number of things that we want to invest in. And then lastly, because we didn't talk about it here today, we had a meeting that was adjourned the last time we met to talk about the first ward appointment. I know there were a number of individuals who really wanted us to come to a resolution, myself included. In the last meeting, we didn't. We continued to be deadlocked. And while that is frustrating, what I was more frustrated about is that we didn't give a closeout to people. And so here's the closeout, essentially, is that we are deadlocked. So that means that the seat is not going to be filled, I would say, at this time. I do remind everyone that our charter requires us to fill this seat. And so I expect that this body will unanimously appoint whoever wins and certified, and we can figure out what that language is, who wins that election in November. And so I want people to know that that is closed out. At least that's how I'm considering it. We had some conversations to have ongoing conversations. I didn't agree with that. I wish I would have been a little bit more forceful that day to say what I'm hearing is that we're deadlocked and this is not going to be filled. So that was a lot of stuff today, but there was a lot of comments made. There were a lot of topics reviewed. We're in the middle of our budget cycle, and just didn't have that opportunity at our last meeting. So thank you. Have a good night.
Commissioner Belichick.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Isasi. I appreciate the update because I was hoping you covered quite a lot of ground that also was on my mind, so thank you for doing that. I've been deeply listening and hearing, and I want to say thank you to everyone who not only was here, and particularly the young folks. I just want to respond that I absolutely see each and every one of you who come here or who I run into or who I see online as individuals. I do not see you as a group. I do not see you as something other than your unique self. So it's always great when I can hear people talk and speak their minds here, no matter their age. And so I'm proud of those young folks. And I'm really grateful for the people who have reached out to me, both in concern, in consternation, in care, in all sorts of other feelings in the last few weeks. It's been a lot to be handling, managing, sharing, and digesting. But something I haven't had a chance yet to share, and I hear it a lot today, is something I've been sitting in very deeply and working on since February, is this big question of what would it take to scale therapeutic healing to a community-wide, citywide level. Because so many of our issues that I'm hearing come down to us feeling like we're a community not at odds with itself. Whether it's small groups or big groups, circles within circles, or circles that don't touch other circles. And it's really important to me that we learn to both trust ourselves so that we can have a voice, so that we can speak our truth to someone else, and also be willing to openly listen to another person, even if they don't agree with us or challenge us to think differently, and to be able to trust the community decisions that we're making in these different groups, like Together West Michigan here tonight, or COSATIA, or all the other people. And I include in that the work that our public service folks are doing here. That includes the city manager and all the staff. We have a public service a week last week celebrated, and today we announced that we're celebrating public works personnel. So these are the people that are day in, day out, literally in the dirt, in the water, in the streets, doing the work that keeps our city infrastructure functioning. And so I think it's important to remember that what does it take to create a safe community is not just one person or one entity. It's all of us. And I did have the opportunity to celebrate the fire department, who had their last graduation class at the old building. And that was actually my first time in that building. So it was interesting to see all the steps that they have to go through. So congratulations to our graduates. And we have lots of fire safety folks for that reason. And I think that we have to remember that what does it take to create trust and community healing is going to be also need to come from within our various departments, including our police department. But there's a lot of people who care, and a lot of people who want stability, the trust, the safety, the dignity, and the solidarity that we heard about tonight. So I'm sitting in my own big questions as I'm listening, and I'm thinking about and connecting with people who can help make those changes. I want to spend a little bit of time focusing just on my own ward here in the Roosevelt Park neighborhood in particular, because I was horrified by what happened and very, very saddened. And this is where my concern would go. And I've had an opportunity to meet with the Roosevelt Park neighborhood president. We talked quite a long time about what would housing look like in the neighborhood, what would investments in the neighborhood look like, and what would other ways that we can make the neighborhood even more vibrant and really for the residents that live there. And then yesterday, I had the opportunity to speak with the RPNA, Roosevelt Park Neighborhood Association Executive Director, and I introduced that idea of what would it take to scale therapeutic healing. And we're talking about what are the considerations of the neighbors and the conversations that are having, because people may not even want to come out to the brand new reopened farmers market that is being held there at Roosevelt Park. So we may be able to do something in collaboration, as in myself and others in the community, to help sit with people and listen to those conversations, because I think that it is important. And our budget process is part of the reinvestment back into the community. We do, Commissioner Usasi talked about the co-response model. We have quite a bit of money allocated to that. We have quite a bit of money allocated to victim advocacy. We have a lot of money, I'm very happy to say, $1.47 million allocated to redoing or making investments into the Roosevelt Park Lodge in the park there, $350,000 to Lincoln Park, and $500,000 I think is in there for improvements to continuing the renovations in Sullivan Field. So we need, when we're out in these community neighborhoods, in our green spaces, I would like to offer my own challenge that it takes a village, and that these spaces can be places where we can find healing together.
City Clerk.
A song about elections. No, I'm kidding. Not a song about elections. So to put on what Commissioner Belchik just said, I had the honor of being at that give the oath of office for those new firefighters, and it was a surreal, I posted this on my Facebook page too, it was a surreal week because it was Public Services Week and it was also Municipal Clerks Week, and so I thank my staff today. I do have a great staff, and so we all serve that together. So, and then so that was Thursday night, we did the oath of office to the new firefighters, and then on Friday, I had the opportunity to go up to GRCC, and one of our friends in her mid to late 40s got her RN degree from GRCC and was pinned as an RN, and seeing those nurses getting pinned to do service. So it was a great week of watching new people getting into new service fields, and that's why, if you want to call us bureaucrats, that's what we do. We're called to public service, and we can joke about taxes and various other things, but as we look at the America's 250 and we look at the Boston Tea Party and throwing things, sure, they were opposing what was happening to them from somewhere across the ocean. They didn't get rid of taxes. They just wanted the taxes to stay in their community. And I think that's part of it as we look at it. And I know Scott was doing that kind of in a tongue-in-cheek way, but and I'm sure he's going to get some trends on that too. I already noticed he already is getting some views from other people. But but with that, I mean, I take it as someone who's been a clerk for 26 years in government for quite a while. My dad was a 30-year employee for the city of Grand Rapids in the water department. We take public service very seriously and take it as an honor to be able to serve the public at whatever role we have within this body. And the public can be involved too. We're always looking for more people to be on our boards and commissions. I'm always looking for more election inspectors. So if you don't want to be just on the outside, you can be on the inside too. There's room at the table for all. So that's it for me.
City Attorney? Nothing? City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for your work today and tonight, and to the staff who, as you acknowledged earlier, done so much to make this budget proposal possible, and I've want to let them know I appreciate the work that they're doing. Also want to just acknowledge Commissioner Kilgore mentioned $600,000 for the traffic safety and mobility improvements from the Third Ward Fund. I also want to highlight that in fiscal year 27 budget, as proposed, there was a $700,000 allocation for the same effort. I also like to acknowledge our newly appointed city engineer, Ms. City Urban. Congratulations to her. I know that she's going to do good work. We also announced the restructuring of the resource or the contract for our retail retention attraction program now will be overseen by her department. Also, this past week, we announced the beginning of the recruitment process for the police chief, and there's a search that's going on. Deadline for applications is June 5th. I'm so grateful for the service of all of our officers, including our interim police chief, and looking forward to the conclusion of that process, which will likely be, I think, the week of June the 15th, I think, is what we're tentatively targeting now. So more information will come out on specific dates, and that'll be an opportunity for the public to also meet the finalists and provide feedback before a decision is made. Next week at our Public Safety Committee meeting, it's just next week. We've been meeting 4 weeks in a row. Looking forward to the update. After the Daquan Johnson shooting, there were several commitments that were asked for from this dais. One was a review of all the deadly use of force incidents since 2000 and over the past 5 years, and we did that seriatim. And went Police Chief Trigg did a great job of going through those incidents. The second commitment was to do some benchmarking analysis around the pursuit policy, and we'll have that discussion hopefully next week in our oversight office. Mr. Davis is leading that effort, and looking forward to the opening of the amphitheater this week. I know much discussion has occurred around how to safely get there and all the mobility options. So I appreciate all of our partners as well as the staff in making sure that everyone can have an enjoyable, safe experience. The 15th is a ticketed event, but the 16th, the very next day, is a community event open to the public at no cost. And so hopefully you'll be able to make one or both, and look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. To the few of you who are left, and I guess largely I'll be speaking maybe to my colleagues as much as anything else. I want to discuss two things and discuss them a little bit in detail. The first is there was one of the people who came up and made public comment today talked about their length of time working on an issue. I have been working in the law enforcement space in one form or another for 36 years. I began my career as a prosecutor in Kent County, as an assistant Kent County prosecutor, and I spent a number of years in that space. I was one of two people assigned essentially full-time to be working on domestic violence prosecutions for a number of years. I have spent a long time working with law enforcement and particularly with GRPD, other agencies too, but maybe it's not my place to apologize, but I want to apologize to the men and women in GRPD for some of the tenor and some of the characterizations that we so often hear in here. I am a firm advocate for, and I've spent many decades of my life working on restorative justice, working on the problem of mass incarceration in America, working on how to provide a better justice system that is not slanted based on wealth and is not slanted based on race. But I have yet to meet a law enforcement officer who went about their job operating out of malice. I go on ride-alongs roughly once a month, and the officers who I see doing their job are trying to enforce and administer justice within the parameters that they are set by policy. And they do that work courageously, and they do that work with good faith and with the best of efforts. Now, of course, with 300 officers, not all of them are perfect. I am not perfect. I've made mistakes in my life. I will make mistakes again. It is not reasonable to assume a standard of perfection for any one or any group, but it is also deeply unhelpful, I think, to make blanket accusations that police are operating out of malice. I don't think it's helpful in any respect. And so I want to apologize on behalf of this commission to our law enforcement for the tenor of some of the comments that were made tonight. And it's not the first time, and I'm afraid it won't be the last. I am glad to hear conversations about how we can do justice better in our community. And there are so many things we can do better. And there are things I've spent years of my life working on. I spent years of my life trying to fix cash bond in Michigan. I haven't given up on that fight. I spent years of my life broadening the doors for expungement possibilities that have helped 1.2 million of our Michigan residents to get their records cleaned up. We became the first state in the country to do that automatically, and 9 states have copied us since. I spent years of my life trying to get largely vulnerable communities off of Child Protective Services lists at the registries that they shouldn't be on, and got 400,000 people off that list in Michigan. I'm deeply concerned that we have a justice system that's fair to everyone and treats everyone the same, and I am not asserting a monopoly on that. That's one of the reasons I am so proud to be on this commission, because I know that everybody up here shares those concerns and those priorities. And I know because we've had conversations about it. So I am not trying to assert a monopoly or a position of unique passion on this issue. This commission is passionate on the issue of justice. I want to point that out because it is true. I mean, again, just to ground in my work in domestic violence, Domestic violence cases are very hard to prosecute. They are repetitive. They involve people who often exhibit the same behavior again and again and again. And if we don't have law enforcement who are able to hold those folks accountable, identify the bad actors, and bring them in for accountability, we're leaving a lot of vulnerable people unserved. So to suggest that we can have a world without people doing that sort of work is a real stretch for me. Now, one of the things I'm really excited about is work that we can do outside of traditional law enforcement. I'm excited about the idea of having a new mediator. I know many of us are excited about that, and many of us are excited about the work that we're doing in co-response. Many of us are excited about the real work that we are doing to house people with mental health issues and substance abuse issues and have them not be caught up in the criminal justice system. There are people up in this dais who are very closely connected to work on trying to come up with alternative strategies to incarceration. One of my fellow commissioners has a spouse who's working in that area. One of my fellow commissioners worked on a project like that for a number of years in her former job. So alternatives, additions to traditional policing are things that I think many of us are very passionate about, and also doing policing better. But I also think that that's true of every single good person I know in law enforcement, that they're always interested in figuring out how to do things better, how to be better at peacekeeping and problem solving. And I guess that, for me, that means that when we have conversations about improvement, I really, I'm saddened by straw man dynamics or dynamics that put someone, impute malice or impute lack of understanding to somebody on the other side. So I'll transition then, if I can, to the other conversation we had again and again tonight. And I don't know whether this is a flat-out misunderstanding or whether it's a straw man position, but there are a number of people who have come up and said again and again and again that we should adopt the six policies that are largely associated, I think, with being policies suggested by COSAGA. And Russ, you specifically said, why not try it? The answer to that is we're doing them all. And that's why I don't understand the conversation. I really don't. And so just for sake of clarity, and particularly for my colleagues, and because I'm a lawyer and I've spent some time looking at this, I want to enumerate those policies briefly and talk about our position on them. So the first of those policies is a demand that we prohibit detaining individuals on civil immigration warrants. That language is exactly in our current GRPD policy. We have a policy that specifically aligns with with the demand that's being made on us. In other words, they're demanding that we do something that we're already doing. So that's a tough barrier to get across, other than a barrier of communication. The second policy is a policy that prevents GRPD collaborating with ICE. Again, we have a policy in place which tracks what other cities like Chicago and Boston do very carefully and very closely, which say that we do not participate in ICE investigations. We do not ask people about their immigration status. Now, there is I'll leave it at that, but I invite you to all go and examine those policies, and I'm happy to have an open dialogue about them. But the fact of the matter is we have a policy that specifically addresses that demand. The third is a policy that we prohibit sharing of flock data. Again, our police chief has said directly that we do not share flock data. First of all, we certainly don't share it with ICE, but we don't even share it with outside entities, by and large. So, there's the possibility we get hacked. There's the possibility that my credit card could get hacked. But our policy is that we do not share that data. Our practice is that we do not share that data. The second is that we have policies that ban the fourth is that we have policies that ban 287G agreements with ICE. Our city attorneys identified at least 3 policies which specifically would prohibit us from entering into 287G agreements. Now, those of you who are curious can go look on the ICE website and see what a 287G agreement is. It's enumerated on the ICE website. You can also, with a little bit of research, find entities in the state that have entered into 287G agreements. We are not one of them, and there are a number of reasons for those. One is the moral commitment of this body. But the other is we already have a policy in place. So again, that's a demand that we do something that we're already doing. The 5th is that we have a policy that prevents us, policy opposing detention centers in the city. The city hasn't had a detention center since we closed the city jail, I think in the early 1900s. So if we're talking about ICE detention centers, there are none of those on the horizon I know of. We can get into federal preemption conversations, but we don't have any detention facilities. And the final, so I don't see how we respond to that other than that's where we are. And the final one is, and this is one that frankly, when I had a conversation with individuals who were advocating for this at a town hall meeting, they agreed that this was not that this policy wasn't really internally coherent or enforceable. And that last one is how they stated it was policies that prevent us entering into agreements, us the city, entering into agreements with entities that have current contracts with ICE. And I said, well, as I read that, if ICE has got a contract with Gordon Food Service to get Pepsi in their vending machines, then we can't have a contract with Gordon's. Or if they had a contract with Microsoft to support their computers, they'd want a policy that the city stop having a contract with Microsoft. So it's not even a disinvestment policy. It's I guess, sort of a poison ivy policy, and it doesn't make much sense to me. I don't really see how the city could realistically expect itself to go around and ask ICE who it's entered into contracts with so that we can make sure that we don't have any overlap on who services our computers or provides soda pop in the vending machines or any of a variety of other issues. And frankly, the group agreed that that policy didn't really make sense, and they said, well, we're not lawyers. So I am a lawyer. I don't understand how that policy would be realistically implemented. But the other policies, I'm afraid that the vast majority of those people who made those points have left. But for my colleagues' sake, I spent a lot of time and energy on this. And I will say, and I think I speak for the whole commission, that every single person on this commission is committed to valuing the dignity, the safety, and the human value of every resident of our city. Now, we like people in Wyoming too, but our job is to represent, honor, respect, and take care of the residents of our community, and I don't care what their citizenship is, and I don't think any member of this city commission cares when we're asking that basic question. And anything that we can do to increase the flourishing of the human beings who reside in our city, we are committed to continuing those conversations, to not resting, to not shying away from conversations. But I hope that we can do that in an atmosphere of respect and grace and curiosity, rather than in conversations which start with imputing malice or with attributing positions to people which they simply don't hold. So thank you all for being here tonight.